is asking, what do you do when Iranian communists support the Ayatollahs because they enjoy the strong position against the tyranny of the Americans? Well, okay, it's not just the communists. There's also some. Okay, so it depends on which communists you're talking about. Okay, so I think you're talking about Western communists. So, unlike Western communists, Iranian communists right now very much hate the Ayatollah, aggressively so. Okay, however, the communists have a habit of supporting tyrants who oppose Western countries because they're anti-imperialist, and I think that's the answer, right? Communists are supporting Ayatollahs, many communists, not all of them, because Ayatollahs are against the United States, and that's based in communist books, no matter who's doing it. Again, not all the communists, okay? I think that's the short answer is right there. If you're anti the big evil that is the United States, the greatest force for imperialism in the world in their eyes, then given that that is the most evil, biggest evil that we all have to deal with, we could ignore all the other things that we don't like about you. So I think that's the way they look at it. That, anti-US, that's good enough. That's what. Again, I there are some communists that hate that about other communists. Like, this is like a communist infighting. Like, I've seen so many communists who are like, "Why are you supporting the Ayatollahs? These people are horrible. This is what if you look at it through the Iranian eyes, these people be the bourgeoisie, right? Like, we can't just support just because when bourgeoisies fight each other, we can't support one of them against the other one. Like, we have to be for the working class people everywhere, including in Iran. So the working class people in Iran are suffering because of the Ayatollahs. So why are you supporting the Ayatollahs? So saying being anti-US is not good enough. So again, communists, this is some communists against other communists, right? However, I do want to say, as bad as aggressively the communists in Iran right now are today against the Ayatollahs, the communists are arguably the reason why Ayatollahs are in power today, because before the Ayatollahs turned on them, they supported the Ayatollahs getting into power. And in fact, they started using Shia narratives as a way to give an Islamic branding to their communism. And they thought the communists and the Ayatollahs united with each other to make the 1979 Islamic Revolution happen. And then when the Ayatollahs came to power, they turned on the communists and they started executing them in mass numbers, right? I don't know why this seems to be a common theme, like a cycle in Middle East. I don't know. So many times you see communists and Islamists help each other. Islamists come into power. Islamists turn on the communists. I don't know why that happened so many times. What is it with communists or far leftists and Islam that they start, and even in some more minor forms of it, it's not just communists. Like, some far leftists, they're like, we're going to support the Muslims, and then they succeed, and the Muslims all of a sudden, like, by the way, we're not very fond of this and this and this, and the communists were like, wait, what? We thought you guys were cool, right? And now they're having a divorce. It just keeps happening. I don't know why this seems to be like a cycle. Yeah, authoritarian leftists particularly. Exactly. Yeah. I think it's just it's not just communists who like the Ayatollahs. I think authoritarians, when they are, it's because we're winning, boys. It's modernity. Modernity is bringing the tyrants together. Okay, this is what's happening. Okay, when the areas of influence of tyranny in the past 100 years or so has been closing in, I don't know, in the past 10, 20 years, though it seems like it's making a comeback. But overall, in the past 200 years, let's say, the modernity and secularism and democracy has been growing and growing and growing. And tyrants who used to be against each other maybe are finding finding allies within each other because there's a bigger threat. There's a bigger threat, and that's modernity. That's secularism. That's democracy. And I think they're and you could see, okay, so the force of illiberalism are finding each other and working each other against a bigger threat, and that might be in a very aggressive way, as in tyrants finding tyrants, or like communists finding ayatollahs and working with each other, or it could be in a more minor way, as in Islamists finding conservatives and then be like, hey, these liberals, they're coming for our families, so I don't like your Islam, you don't like my Christianity, but these liberals, right? And this is basically kind of what Daniel Haqiqatjou is doing right now. So, and again, this unity is not just with far leftists; it's also with far right elements. So you might notice like Islam is getting closer to far left, but it's basically getting closer. They often find allies with everybody who is not a liberal. That might be a right-wing, far right conservative, or might be a far left, pro tanky. It might be a far left tanky. Okay, what they all share with is that they hate us liberals, and given that liberals are dominating, they work with each other. This is why Daniel Haqiqatjou keeps focusing more on, instead of like less on promoting Islam, more on fighting liberalism and modernity and trying to unite with conservative Christians and conservative Hindus and everybody. Like, hey guys, we conservatives, and also if you notice, Daniel Haqiqatjou, not only he likes like right-wing conservatives and Republicans and right-wing Christians, he also likes, he doesn't want to talk about Islam much. He wants to show the highlights, the agreements. But then Haqiqatjou is a perfect example, because a lot of his narratives also comes from communists and leftist critique of modernity. So he's picking from all sides to build his narrative against liberals and modernity. It's very interesting. Let me see. Yeah, exactly. D is saying the enemy of my enemy. Yeah, this is kind of like that situation. Kenji in the live chat is saying a lot of leftists prioritize anti-Americanism over their other values, in my opinion. Well, I mean, arguably that makes a lot of sense, because Americanism, they're seeing it as a symbol of liberalism, and liberalism is arguably taking over if you look at the history in the past 200 years. So it makes sense to focus, like, why would you even speak about like promoting communism when people are like, are so in their minds brainwashed by the current liberal hegemony in the world? If you'd like to send me your questions for me to answer during our Q&As, become a patron. If you would like to have a discussion with me live on air at the end of the Q&As, become a YouTube member. Link to both is in the description. Thank you for your support.